Musk, his third time on this, the Lex Friedman podcast. Yeah, make yourself comfortable.
Boo.
No, wow, okay.
No. You don't do the headphone thing?
No.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, how close do I need to get this thing?
The closer you are, the sexier you sound.
Hey, babe.
Yep.
What's up? Can't get enough of your love, baby.
I'm going to clip that out. Anytime somebody messages me about it,
If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come right out and tell me so. do.
So good. Okay, serious mode activate. All right.
Serious mode. Come on, you're Russian. You can be serious.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone's serious all the time in Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
It's gotten soft. Allow me to say that the SpaceX launch of human beings to orbit on May 30th, 2020 was seen by many as the first step in a new era of human space exploration. These human spaceflight missions were a beacon of hope to me and to millions over the past 2 years as our world has been going through one of the most difficult periods in recent human history. We see the rise of division, fear, cynicism, and the loss of common humanity right when it is needed most. So first, Elon, let me say thank you for giving the world hope and reason to be excited about the future.
Oh, it's kind of you to say. I do want to do that. Humanity has obviously a lot of issues, and people at times do bad things, but despite all that, I love humanity, and I think we should make sure we do everything we can to have a good future and an exciting future, and one where that maximizes the happiness of the people.
Let me ask about Crew Dragon Demo 2. So that first flight with humans on board, how did you feel leading up to that launch? Were you scared? Were you excited? What was going through your mind? So much was at stake.
Yeah, no, that was extremely stressful, no question. We obviously could not let them down in any way. So extremely stressful, I'd say, to say the least. But I was confident that at the time that we launched, that no one could think of anything at all to do that would improve the probability of success. And we racked our brains to think of any possible way to improve the probability of success. We could not think of anything more, and nor could NASA. And so then that's just the best that we could do. So then we went ahead and launched. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I nonetheless got on my knees and prayed for that mission.
Were you able to sleep?
No.
How did it feel when it was a success? First, when the launch was a success, and when they returned back home or back to Earth?
It was a great relief. Yeah. It's for high stress situations, I find it's not so much elation as relief. I think once as we got more comfortable and proved out the systems, because we really you got to make sure everything works. It was definitely a lot more enjoyable with the subsequent astronaut missions, and I thought the Inspiration mission was actually very inspiring. Inspiration 4 mission. I'd encourage people to watch the Inspiration documentary on Netflix. It's actually really good, and it really is. I was actually inspired by that, and so that one I felt I was kind of able to enjoy the actual mission and not just be super stressed all the time.
So for people that somehow don't know, it's the all-civilian, first time all-civilian out to space, out to orbit.
Yeah, and it was I think the highest orbit that in 30 or 40 years or something. The only one that was higher was the one shuttle, a Hubble servicing mission. And then before that, it would have been Apollo in 1972. It's pretty wild. So it's cool. It's good. I think as a species, we want to be continuing to do better and reach higher ground, and I think it would be tragic, extremely tragic, if Apollo was the high watermark for humanity, and that's as far as we ever got. And it's it's concerning that here we are, 49 years after the last mission to the moon, and so almost half a century, and we've not been back. And that's worrying. It's like, does that mean we've peaked as a civilization, or what? So, like, I think we got to get back to the moon and build a base there. A science base. I think we could learn a lot about the nature of the universe if we have a proper science base on the moon. Like we have a science base in Antarctica and, many other parts of the world. And so that's I think the next big thing. We've got to have like a serious like moon base, and then get people to Mars and, get out there and be a spacefaring civilization.
I'll ask you about some of those details, but since you're so busy with the hard engineering challenges of everything that's involved, are you still able to marvel at the magic of it all, of space travel, of every time the rocket goes up, especially when it's a crewed mission? Or are you just so overwhelmed with all the challenges that you have to solve? And actually, sort of to add to that, the reason I wanted to ask this question of May 30th, it's been some time, so you can look back and think about the impact already. It's already, at the time, it was an engineering problem, maybe. Now it's becoming a historic moment. Like, it's a moment that, how many moments will be remembered about the 21st century? To me, that or something like that, maybe inspiration for one of those, would be remembered as the early steps of a new age of space exploration.
Yeah, I mean, during the launches itself. So I mean, the thing I think maybe some people know, but a lot of people don't know, is like I'm actually the chief engineer of SpaceX. So, I've signed off on pretty much all the design decisions, and so if there's something that goes wrong with that vehicle, it's fundamentally my fault. So I'm really just thinking about all the things that, like, so when I see the rocket, I see all the things that could go wrong and the things that could be better. And the same with the Dragon spacecraft. It's like other people will say, "Oh, this is a spacecraft or a rocket, and this looks really cool." I'm like, I've like a readout of like, these are the risks, these are the problems. That's what I see. Like, so it's not what other people see when they see the product,
So let me ask you then to analyze Starship in that same way. I know you'll talk about in more detail about Starship in the near future, perhaps.
We can talk about it now if you want.
But just in that same way, like you said, when you see a rocket, you see a sort of a list of risks. In that same way, you said that Starship is a really hard problem. So there's many ways I can ask this, but if you magically could solve one problem perfectly, one engineering problem perfectly, which one would it be?
On Starship?
On Starship. So is it maybe related to the efficiency, the engine, the weight of the different components, the complexity of various things, maybe the controls of the crazy thing has to do to land?
No, it's actually by far the biggest thing absorbing my time is engine production. Not the design of the engine. I've often said prototypes are easy, production is hard. So we have the most advanced rocket engine that's ever been designed. Because I say currently the best rocket engine ever is probably the RD-180 or RD-170. That's the Russian engine, basically. And still, I think an engine should only count if it's gotten something to orbit. So our engine has not gotten anything to orbit yet, but it's the first engine that's actually better than the Russian RD engines, which were amazing design.
So you're talking about Raptor engine. What makes it amazing? What are the different aspects of it that make it, like, what are you the most excited about if the whole thing works in terms of efficiency, all those kinds of things?
Well, the Raptor is a full flow staged combustion engine, and it's at operating at a very high chamber pressure. So one of the key figures of merit, or perhaps the key figure of merit, is what is the chamber pressure at which the rocket engine can operate. That's the combustion chamber pressure. So a Raptor is designed to operate at 300 bar, possibly maybe higher. That's 300 atmospheres. So the record right now for operational engine is the RD engine that I mentioned, the Russian RD, which is, I believe, around 267 bar. And the difficulty of the chamber pressure increases on a nonlinear basis. So 10% more chamber pressure is more like 50% more difficult. But that chamber pressure is that is what allows you to get a very high power density for the engine. So enabling a very high thrust to weight ratio and a very high specific impulse. So specific impulse is like a measure of the efficiency of a rocket engine. Or it's really the exhaust, the effective exhaust velocity of the gas coming out of the engine. So with a very high chamber pressure, you can have a compact engine that nonetheless has a high expansion ratio, which is the ratio between the exit nozzle and the throat. So you know, engine's got, like, you see a rocket engine's got like sort of like a hourglass shape. It's like a chamber, and then it necks down, and then there's a nozzle, and the ratio of the exit diameter to the throat is expansion ratio.
So why is it such a hard engine to manufacture at scale?
It's very complex.
So a lot of what does complexity mean here? Is a lot of components involved.
There's a lot of components and a lot of unique materials that so we had to invent several alloys that don't exist in order to make this engine work.
So it's a materials problem too.
It's a materials problem, and in a staged combustion, a full flow staged combustion, there are many feedback loops in the system. So you basically you've got propellant and hot gas flowing simultaneously to so many different places on the engine, and they all have a recursive effect on each other. So you change one thing here, it has a recursive effect here. It changes something over there, and it's quite hard to control. There's a reason no one's made this before. But and the reason we're doing a staged combustion full flow is because it has the highest theoretical possible efficiency. So in order to make a fully reusable rocket, which that's really the holy grail of orbital rocketry, you have to have, everything's got to be the best. It's got to be the best engine, the best airframe, the best heat shield, extremely light avionics, very clever control mechanisms. You've got to shed mass in any possible way that you can. For example, instead of putting landing legs on the booster and ship, we are going to catch them with a tower to save the weight of the landing legs. So that's like, I mean, we're talking about catching the largest flying object ever made on a giant tower with chopstick arms. It's like Karate Kid with the fly, but much bigger.
I mean, pulling something
this
like
probably
that
won't work the first time. Anyway, so this is bananas. This is banana stuff.
So you mentioned that you doubt, well, not you doubt, but there's days or moments when you doubt that this is even possible. It's so difficult.
The possible part is, well, at this point, I think we'll get Starship to work. There's a question of timing. How long will it take us to do this? How long will it take us to actually achieve full and rapid reusability? Because it will take probably many launches before we're able to have full and rapid reusability. but I can say that the physics pencils out. We're not like at this point. I'd say we're confident that let's say I'm very confident success is in the set of all possible outcomes.
Right. It's not an all set.
For a while there, I was not convinced that success was in the set of possible outcomes, which is very important actually. But so we were.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance, exactly.
Right,
cool. Just not sure how long it will take. But we have a very, very talented team. They're working night and day to make it happen. And like I said, the critical thing to achieve for the revolution in spaceflight and for humanity to be a spacefaring civilization is to have a fully and rapidly reusable orbital rocket. There's not even been any orbital rocket that's been fully reusable ever, and this has always been the holy grail of rocketry. And many smart people, very smart people, have tried to do this before and have not succeeded. So, because it's such a hard problem.
What's your source of belief in situations like this? When the engineering problem is so difficult, there's a lot of experts, many of whom you admire, who have failed in the past.
Yes.
And a lot of people, a lot of experts, maybe journalists, all the kind of, the public in general have a lot of doubt about whether it's possible. And you yourself know that even if it's a non-null set, non-empty set of success, it's still unlikely or very difficult. Like, where do you go to, both personally, intellectually, as an engineer, as a team, like for source of strength needed to sort of persevere through this and to keep going with the project, take it to completion?
A source of strength. I just really not how I think about things. I mean, for me, it's simply this is something that is important to get done, and we should just keep doing it, or die trying. And I don't need a source of strength.
So quitting is not even like
it's not in my nature.
Okay.
And I don't care about optimism or pessimism. Fuck that, we're gonna get it done.
Gonna get it done. Can you then zoom back in to specific problems with Starship or any engineering problems you work on? Can you try to introspect your particular biological neural network, your thinking process, and describe how you think through problems, the different engineering and design problems? Is there like a systematic process? You've spoken about first principles thinking, but is there kind of process to it?
Well, like saying like physics is a law and everything else is a recommendation. Like I've met a lot of people who can break the law, but I haven't met anyone who could break physics. So the first, for any kind of technology problem, you have to sort of just make sure you're not violating physics. And first principles analysis, I think, is something that can be applied to really any walk of life, anything really. It's really just saying, let's boil something down to the most fundamental principles, the things that we are most confident are true at a foundational level, and that sets your axiomatic base, and then you reason up from there, and then you cross-check your conclusion against the axiomatic truths. Some basics in physics would be like, are you violating conservation of energy or momentum or something like that? Then it's not going to work. So that's just to establish, is it possible? And then another good physics tool is thinking about things in the limit. If you take a particular thing and you scale it to a very large number or to a very small number, how do things change?
Both like like in number of things you manufacture, something like that, and then in time.
Yeah, like let's say take an example of like like manufacturing, which I think is just a very underrated problem. And like I said, it's much harder to take an advanced technology product and bring it into volume manufacturing than it is to design it in the first place, by orders of magnitude. So, so let's say you're trying to figure out like, why is this part or product expensive? Is it because of something fundamentally foolish that we're doing, or is it because our volume is too low? And so then you say, okay, well, what if our volume was 1 million units a year? Is it still expensive? That's what I mean by thinking about things to the limit. If it's still expensive at 1 million units a year, then volume is not the reason why your thing is expensive. There's something fundamental about the design.
And then you can focus on reducing the complexity or something like that in the design.
You could change the design